So long, John. Good luck in prison. That's President Donald Trump's message basically to John Bolton. I'm paraphrasing, of course. John Bolton, former UN ambassador under President Donald Trump, was indicted yesterday on 18 counts of doing bad stuff.
President John Bolton was just indicted by a grand jury in Maryland. Do you have a reaction to that?
I didn't know that. You tell me for the first time, but I think he's, a bad person. I think he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. It's too bad, but it's the way it goes.
Yeah, he's a bad guy. Too bad, but he's a bad guy. The New York Post reporting ex-Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton indicted on charges of mishandling classified information. A federal grand jury indicted John Bolton Thursday of 18 counts of illegally hoarding or sending sensitive information, leaving the longtime pillar of the Republican foreign policy establishment facing decades in prison. The indictment, which happened in Greenbelt, Maryland, is... Federal court alleges that John Bolton transmitted classified national security documents through a personal AOL email account. You've got mail. And knowingly sent secret materials to outside contacts who served in the first Trump administration. The former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations also kept diary-like notes of his daily activities and assessments, more than 1,000 pages, which he shared with two relatives believed to be his wife and daughter. They did not have security clearances and were not authorized to see the information that Bolton shared. A lot of people egregiously comparing this to President Donald Trump's indictments for handling classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. President Donald Trump, once again, we will remind you, was the commander-in-chief and had the sole responsibility and power to declassify documents at will. John Bolton did not. That is a story, of course, that has been a long time coming, and we will be following. Now, the other thing about the John Bolton indictment is it comes right on the heels of the Letitia James indictment in New York and the James Comey indictment in D.C., and a lot of folks are trying to compare. They're trying to find comparisons, and they're trying to say President Donald Trump is summarily going one by one through all of his advisors. President Donald Trump is looking at his enemies list and taking them all out. But the John Bolton indictment is very different because the prosecutors who brought these charges are longtime, well-regarded prosecutors, and President Donald Trump hasn't actually mentioned John Bolton in a very long time. And in fact, he mentioned to the press there, he didn't even hear that John Bolton was indicted. Not something I think that was high on his priority list. Something that is high on President Donald Trump's priority list is peace in Ukraine. And that is why President Donald Trump was on the phone yesterday with Vladimir Putin and made arrangements to meet with Vladimir Putin.
You also posted about your call with President Putin today, and you spoke about meeting in Hungary with him. Do you have a timeline or a date set for when?
I would say within 2 weeks or so, pretty quick. Marco Rubio is going to be meeting with his counterpart, as you know, Lavrov, and they'll be meeting pretty soon. They're going to set up a time and a place very shortly. Maybe it's already set up. They've already spoken. And I thought it was a very good phone call. I thought very productive. But I'll be meeting with President Putin, and we'll make a determination. Tomorrow I'm meeting with President Zelensky, and I'll be telling him about the call. I mean, we have a problem. They don't get along too well, those two. And it's sometimes tough to have meetings, so we may do something where we're separate but equal. We'll meet and talk parties, but this is a terrible relationship the two of them have, and it's one of those things. I've seen things that nobody would believe, but this is one of them. So we're going to be meeting in Hungary. Viktor Orban is going to be hosting, and it's really something that's time. Last week, over 7,000 people were killed. That's ridiculous. And, it doesn't affect our country. We're not losing people. We're not losing Bobby. We're not losing Americans. But they're losing Russians, Ukrainians, mostly soldiers, for the most part, soldiers. And we hope we're going to get it stopped. I thought this would be, because of my relationship with President Putin, I thought this would be very quick. And it's turned out to be, who would think I did Middle East before I did this? We did a total of 8 now, 7 and now 8. And we're going to make this number 9.
The last time, of course, President Donald Trump met with Vladimir Putin was in Alaska, and that was imagery with the B-2 bombers flying overhead, buzzing the president of Russia that I'm sure he doesn't want to experience again. So they are going to be meeting in Hungary. President Donald Trump wrote, "I've just concluded my telephone conversation with President Putin of Russia. It was a very productive one. President Putin congratulated me and the United States on the great accomplishment of peace in the Middle East, something that he said has been dreamed of for centuries. I believe that the success in the Middle East will help in our negotiation in attaining an end to the war with Russia-Ukraine. President Putin thanked the First Lady Melania for her involvement with children. He was very appreciative and said that this will continue. We also spent a great deal of time talking about trade between Russia and the United States when the war with Ukraine is over. At the conclusion of the call, we agreed there will be a meeting of our high-level advisors, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, together with various other people to be designated. A meeting location is to be determined for that. And then President Putin and I will meet in an agreed-upon location, Budapest, Hungary, to see if we can bring this inglorious war between Russia and Ukraine to an end. And now President Zelensky will be meeting with President Donald Trump and probably Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance and a bunch of others in the White House. Hopefully he'll be wearing a suit and maybe he won't get thrown out, which is all, you know what? It's always a crapshoot with Zelensky. You never know. You never know what's going to happen with that guy. It's been a tumultuous experience. Of course, the diplomacy between Zelensky and President Donald Trump is a roller coaster. But I feel like with President Donald Trump setting this meeting with Putin, with these talks going forward, I believe that we couldn't be near the end game, and everybody else just has to come to the table. Speaking of coming to the table and peace agreements, President Donald Trump mentioned it there that who thought that Hamas and Israel would have a ceasefire agreement before Ukraine and Russia? Who would have thought that Israel and the Middle East would have been easier than bringing peace to Eastern Europe? But that is exactly the case. Now, Hamas has been acting up a little. There have been instances of violence in Gaza because Hamas, again, and, basically what happened is while Israel was invading Gaza, while they were trying to take out Hamas leaders, and they were taking out Hamas leaders, there was disarray. Hamas was not in a powerful position, and you had other people coming into the neighborhoods, other groups, other gangs, other organizations that were taking charge and taking over because they were filling the void that was left by Hamas. This peace agreement that President Donald Trump and the other 35 countries who met in Egypt earlier this week, this agreement that they came to basically reinstalled Hamas in a position of power in Gaza until, of course, they could have a new government in place. Well, Hamas immediately started executing all of those people who were filling those voids of power, all of the other gangs and families and groups. They just put them into the street and started shooting them. And President Donald Trump did not like that at all. So he posted a warning to Hamas on Truth Social that simply said, if Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, which was not the deal, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, for anyone who doubted that Hamas was a terrorist organization or that these people were brutal killers, think about what this means. The minute that they got a peace deal with President Donald Trump, the first thing they did was they took back power and started killing their political enemies in the public square. Donald Trump said, no, that's not going to work for us.
I'm looking at what's happening, and that wasn't the deal that was made, and we'll see what happens. It's calmed down. It's a tough neighborhood. We know that. We have a commitment from them, and I assume they're going to honor that commitment. I hope they do. And I understand they brought back some additional bodies today. It's a rough deal when you think of it, right? Very rough. And we have our hostages back completely. We were very lucky with that, but it's a tough situation. They brought back bodies today, as you probably know, but they also said they're going to behave. We're going to find out if they behave. If they behave, good. If they don't behave, we'll take care of it.
If they don't behave, we'll take care of it. If they don't behave, we'll take care of it. And we know what that means. If Hamas doesn't stop killing people, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them. They call that tit for tat, I believe. That's the diplomatic phrase for it. And speaking of deals, man, what's going on with the government shutdown? Chuck Schumer refuses to create any kind of deal. President Donald Trump says, look, all we're trying to do is extend the existing deal. All we want to do is extend the spending that was in place by 7 weeks until the end of Thanksgiving, so that, you know, we could do something cool. We could actually fund the government, and we could have all of the appropriations that we need.
All we want to do is just extend. We don't want anything. We just want to extend, live with the deal that they had. They want to spend $1.5 trillion on illegal immigrants, and they want to destroy health care for everyone else. And it's crazy. It's crazy. People that are here illegally, they want to spend $1.5 trillion. So we're just not going to do it. No, we have to take care of our health care. Now, we're doing that today, and we're doing it with, you know, favored nations, the most favored nations. Your costs are going to be dropping greatly.
Yeah, and that's something that President Donald Trump was in the Oval Office to discuss. In fact, he was discussing slashing the price of IVF drugs and being able to offer people who are not able to conceive the ability at a much more affordable rate to try these treatments.
In the Trump administration, we want to make it easier for all couples to have babies, raise children, and start the families they've always dreamed about. That's why today I'm pleased to announce that after extensive negotiations, EMD Serrano, the largest fertility drug manufacturer in the world, has agreed to provide massive discounts to all fertility drugs they sell in the United States, including the most popular drug of all, the IVF drug Gonal-F. So it's Gonal-F. Is that a proper pronunciation? Close enough, right? Gonal-F.
Very well done. Gonal-F will be a lot cheaper, and that is something that President Donald Trump has been working toward, is helping American families. But the Democrats consistently argue that American tax dollars should be used to help illegal aliens. And that is something that J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, fun fact, also President of the Senate, who's intimately involved in these negotiations, is saying, you know, that's not a policy. The only thing they want to do is fight Trump, and no matter what, they don't want to come to the table. They don't want to negotiate. So we have a different plan we're going to
Even if you had all 53 Republicans who would support a health care program, you would need 7 Democrats to get on board. So we're going to actually force the Democrats to work with us and to actually enact some policy. And this is what's been so crazy, Greta, about being in this town for the last 8 months. The Democrats' entire obsession is fight Trump. Get Trump, attack Trump. When they get the majority, if they ever get the majority, they're going to try to impeach Trump. And we know that, and that's their sole focus and their obsession. We would actually like to work with the Democrats on fixing health care for the American people. Unfortunately, we haven't found much willingness across the aisle to do that.
Get Trump, fight Trump, impeach Trump. That's exactly what the Democrats, I think that's actually their motto. I think it's the Democrat Party, fight Trump, get Trump, impeach Trump. It comes from the Latin Democratus, which means we hate Trump. And that is something that he's absolutely right about. And that is why the Republicans continue to keep maneuvering. The Democrats continue to keep the government shut down. And we'll see what happens after this weekend, because, of course, this weekend is the No Kings rally nationally. There will be No Kings rallies and celebrations all over the country. And we'll see what message the Democrats try to send. But, of course, a government shutdown helps their No Kings messaging. If the government were reopened and President Donald Trump won the battle, that would of course weaken them. So I wouldn't expect any kind of government shutdown talk or movement until after the No Kings rallies, which happen on Saturday, the 18th. If you're interested in attending or counter-protesting, I'm sure you'll be able to find one near you. In the meantime, if you'd like to learn how President Donald Trump can be so successful in so many different aspects of his life, entertainment and business and politics and raising a great family, grab my new book, Live Like Trump, for only $24. It's called Go Trump Yourself. Go Trump Yourself. It's available right now for instant download. You get the Go Trump Yourself electronic bundle, the ebook and the audiobook, so you can read it, or you can listen to me read it, or you can listen to me read it while you read along. $24 for the Go Trump Yourself downloadable bundle. Go to gotrumpyourself.com and get your copy right now. Gotrumpyourself.com. I've also put a link in the description of this video to make it even easier for you. Gotrumpyourself.com. Get the book today and trump yourself tomorrow.